Once in a small bookstore hidden away in one of those quiet streets that seemed to belong more to memories than to maps. The kind of place that drew people who felt at home among pages, people who didn't rush or ask for recommendations, people who just wanted to linger quietly. Alex wasn't looking for anything specific when they stepped into the store, just shelter from the rain and a moment away from the busy streets outside. They ran fingers along the spines of books that hadn't moved in years, each coated in thin layers of neglect and silence. Their eyes drifted across titles long forgotten, and somehow, without intention, they landed upon a slender book with no title on its faded cover. Just an old dark green binding, worn soft at the edges and a peculiar symbol calling to be opened. It smelled faintly of dust and vanilla, that comforting nostalgic scent unique to old pages. Alex opened it gently, not expecting much, but their eyes caught something in the margins almost immediately. Handwritten, faint, in pencil, as if whispered quietly to the paper long ago. "The Bird of Hermes is my name, eating my wings to make me tame." They repeated the phrase silently, lips barely moving. It felt strange, as if the words didn't fully belong to the paper, but rather hovered above it, suspended in thought. Alex ran a finger over the faint lettering, smudging a bit of graphite, and wondered about the person who had placed it there. Who were they? What had this phrase meant to them, and why had it compelled them to mark it down, to underline it, as though it held the answer to some hidden question? Without understanding why, Alex bought the book. Perhaps it was curiosity, or the quiet urgency of discovering the secret behind a stranger's cryptic scribble. Maybe it was the simplicity of those words, so carefully chosen and strangely resonant. Either way, the book felt like a key, not necessarily one Alex had sought, but one they somehow needed. Back in their apartment, a small quiet space lined with shelves of half-finished books, half-written thoughts, and the steady hum of unanswered questions, Alex sat down at the old kitchen table. It was late, the city outside finally settling into quiet after hours of noise and movement. Opening the book again, the phrase seemed clearer now under the warm lamp, as though the words had been waiting for this quiet, private moment to truly reveal themselves. Alex found a blank piece of paper, wrote the words down, and stared at them for a long time, as if expecting the letters to rearrange themselves into a more sensible meaning. But they stayed fixed, firm, and mysterious. "The Bird of Hermes is my name, eating my wings to make me tame." What did it mean to tame oneself by eating one's wings? It sounded both painful and oddly serene, as if it were speaking of restraint that wasn't violent, but deliberate and intentional. Alex reached for their phone, deciding to look up the phrase, half expecting nothing more than a quote from some obscure poem or play. Instead, they found themselves tumbling into a rabbit hole of old manuscripts, symbolic artwork and esoteric blogs filled with theories about alchemy. Soon the screen filled with images of ancient texts, intricate drawings of phoenix-like birds, and strange medieval scrolls that whispered stories of change, balance, and transformation. The phrase, it turned out, was tied to alchemical symbolism, ancient metaphors designed to explain transformation far deeper than mere chemistry. Alex learned about alchemy not as a misguided medieval attempt to turn lead into gold, but as a profound philosophical tradition, an elaborate symbolic journey into the self. Alchemists saw their laboratories as places of transformation, not just of metals, but of themselves. The Bird of Hermes, it appeared, was more than just a myth or poetic figure. It was a metaphor for mercury, the most critical element in alchemical processes. Mercury was volatile, elusive, always escaping attempts to hold it down. It represented the restless spirit within everyone, the part that moves without purpose, never fully satisfied, never completely at peace. The wings of the bird symbolized freedom, but also chaos, an endless desire to soar higher without ever knowing what one truly sought. The phrase, "eating my wings to make me tame," wasn't about destruction. It was about refinement, about self-discipline. It meant to bring one's volatile nature under control, not through force, but through understanding and containment. Alex thought of their own life. The constant rush, the restlessness they couldn't name, the continuous feeling of needing to be somewhere else, doing something else, becoming someone else. Could this bird, this strange alchemical metaphor, be speaking directly to them? The screen flickered gently in the dim apartment, casting shifting shadows across their notes. Alex leaned back, eyes tired but alert with curiosity. This wasn't a path they'd expected to explore, yet it felt oddly familiar, like returning to something they'd always vaguely known but had never fully examined. They decided to dive deeper, not just into the symbolism, but into the idea itself. What would it mean for someone today, someone who lived in a noisy, chaotic, modern world, to eat their wings? Could restraint truly lead to freedom? Could stillness really be more powerful than constant flight? As Alex drifted towards sleep, those questions hung above them like gentle, hovering shapes. They promised nothing immediate, no instant answers, but rather an unfolding, something gradual and internal, like quiet water working slowly into hardened soil. That night, they dreamed lightly of birds, not flying recklessly, but resting calmly, watching patiently, choosing stillness as their wings dissolved softly into a quiet glow. Over the following days, the phrase remained persistent, working quietly in the background of their mind. They felt its presence during busy commutes, during frustrating conversations, during moments of anxiety. At first, the phrase felt intrusive, almost mocking their inability to slow down. But gradually Alex began to sense it differently, as an invitation. Maybe the bird wasn't condemning flight itself, but rather mindless flight, unchosen movement, energy wasted on anxieties and distractions. What if the alchemists understood something fundamental, that to tame oneself, one must first see clearly what needs taming? Driven by this quiet but growing awareness, Alex began experimenting with the idea in practical ways. They paused longer before reacting during conversations. They set aside their phone earlier at night. They tried to resist the impulse to fill every silent moment with noise or distraction. Initially, this felt uncomfortable, even unnatural, but slowly the discomfort gave way to a strange relief, as if each restrained impulse became a small, quiet victory. It wasn't perfect. They slipped back often, but each tiny act of self-awareness felt valuable, even meaningful. One evening, as they stared at the phrase again, Alex felt something shift, not dramatically, but gently, like a lock quietly clicking into place. They suddenly realized that the phrase wasn't about what you lose, but what you gain by choosing carefully where your energy goes. By eating the wings, the bird didn't surrender freedom. It reclaimed clarity. It didn't give up flight. It mastered it. This realization felt profound yet beautifully simple. It was a gentle revolution, the idea that freedom wasn't about endless movement, but mindful choice, that peace wasn't absence of flight, but the presence of intention. Alex felt as though they'd been handed a key, a quiet, ancient truth, hidden for centuries in the margins of a forgotten book. And though they had no clear idea yet of where this path would lead, they felt for the first time that they could step forward consciously, patiently, knowing they were already changing. The book lay open, its faded pages filled not with answers, but with a single, quiet invitation. And Alex, at last, felt ready to follow wherever it might lead. As the days passed, Alex found their thoughts constantly circling back to the phrase discovered in that worn, quiet bookstore. The Bird of Hermes is my name, eating my wings to make me tame. The more they considered it, the more the image of Mercury seemed alive within them, not merely as an abstract concept from a distant past, but as something deeply personal and immediate. Mercury was the very essence of volatility, a reflection of their own internal restlessness, forever shifting and escaping. This wasn't just philosophical, it felt undeniably real. Alex had always been someone in motion, someone who jumped from thought to thought, task to task, rarely feeling anchored or satisfied. The idea of Mercury, the elemental spirit always slipping through fingers like quicksilver, resonated profoundly. Mercury was vibrant, powerful, and yet frustratingly elusive, much like Alex's thoughts and feelings. Their energy moved rapidly but without clear direction, often leaving them feeling exhausted rather than accomplished. They spent evenings reading deeper into ancient alchemical texts, seeking to understand Mercury not just as a chemical element, but as the embodiment of a spiritual and psychological state. Alchemists considered mercury central to the great work, the process of transforming base metals into gold, which was always symbolic rather than literal. This great work represented personal refinement, the transformation of a restless, unformed self into something solid and substantial, something valuable and stable. Alex began keeping detailed notes, pages filling quickly with fragments of ancient wisdom, interpretations of alchemical symbols, and introspective musings about their own volatile spirit. They learned that mercury, in alchemical symbolism, was represented by a bird precisely because of its constant movement, always in flight, always resisting being held or contained. But the bird depicted in these texts wasn't frantic or panicked. Instead, it represented potential, restless energy waiting to be channeled, harnessed, and redirected into something meaningful. One evening, sitting at their small desk with notes spread before them, Alex paused to reflect. They recognized the pattern clearly in their own life, the way they moved quickly from one activity to another, rarely fully present or engaged. They were always planning ahead, worrying about things beyond their control or replaying past interactions. It was an endless cycle of mental and emotional flight, exhausting and unfulfilling. The bird's act of eating its wings started to make more sense now, not as an act of destruction, but as one of transformation. To eat its wings was to deliberately limit unnecessary freedom, to sacrifice chaotic motion in exchange for controlled, purposeful stillness. It wasn't about becoming less, but becoming whole. Mercury had to be stabilized, fixed in alchemical terms, if it were to become something truly valuable. It was an essential step towards the creation of the Philosopher's Stone, the symbolic goal of alchemy representing clarity, enlightenment, and inner peace. Alex considered their life in light of this revelation. The constant checking of their phone, the perpetual rush from one commitment to another, the endless seeking of distractions to avoid sitting quietly with their own thoughts, all these were forms of Mercury's volatility. The thought struck Alex that perhaps their energy was not infinite, and maybe it was being misused. Perhaps restraint wasn't a limitation but liberation, a way of reclaiming energy that was being wasted in chaotic flight. The more Alex internalized this idea, the more their approach to daily life began to shift subtly. They started by creating moments of intentional pause during their day, simple acts like waiting a full breath before responding to a question, or consciously leaving their phone untouched for periods at a time. It wasn't easy. Every impulse pushed back, demanding attention and distraction. But gradually, small victories emerged. A newfound ability to remain calm during tense conversations, an increased awareness of their surroundings, and a clearer sense of their own feelings. Alex also started reflecting on their internal state regularly, asking themselves each evening which parts of their day were driven by conscious choice and which were simply habitual reactions. They began writing these reflections down, noting patterns of behavior and emotion. This act itself felt like taming Mercury, guiding their restless spirit into a purposeful examination of the self, rather than allowing it to scatter unchecked in every direction. As the days became weeks, Alex found themselves calmer, more centered. Mercury was still there, still potent and alive within them, but now it felt less like a chaotic force and more like a powerful tool. They understood that volatility wasn't inherently negative, it simply needed direction. By becoming aware of their internal Mercury, Alex learned to guide its energy intentionally, using it for creativity, insight, and deeper connections with others. One quiet evening, Alex revisited the original book from the bookstore, running fingers over the handwritten phrase that had sparked this journey. It no longer felt like an obscure puzzle. It had become a personal mantra, a guidepost for daily living. The Bird of Hermes was no longer an abstract symbol. It was a companion, a reminder of the power of intentional restraint, of choosing stillness over chaos. The volatile spirit of Mercury had not vanished. It had simply become purposeful, guided, and therefore truly powerful. Alex leaned back in their chair, eyes closing softly, breathing deeply, knowing their journey was far from over, but grateful for how it had begun. They felt a profound sense of gratitude toward that unknown person who had written that cryptic phrase in the margins, unaware of the impact it would have on a stranger years later. In a strange and beautiful way, the The restless spirit within them had found a quiet anchor, not to suppress but to direct, transforming the volatile spirit of Mercury into something profoundly meaningful. As Alex delved deeper into their exploration of the Bird of Hermes, something began shifting beneath the surface of their everyday experiences. The metaphor of Mercury, the volatile, restless spirit now slowly being tamed, began to alter not just how Alex viewed themselves, but how they saw the nature of transformation itself. They realized this alchemical journey wasn't about escaping reality or transcending their human limitations, but rather transforming them. It wasn't a flight upward, away from life, but a deepening, a grounding, a genuine process of change within the very heart of daily existence. This revelation emerged gradually, during simple, often overlooked moments. It came during quiet walks through the park near their apartment, where the rush of the city faded into distant background noise, and in the softness of early morning hours when the world was gently waking. Alex noticed subtle shifts in their behaviour and reactions, small yet profoundly meaningful. They felt less drawn to distractions, less compelled by immediate impulses. Where they had once reacted automatically, now there was space, just enough space to make deliberate choices. Alex returned repeatedly to their reading about the alchemists' great work, fascinated by its symbolism. This ancient pursuit was never truly about metals or gold. It was about inner alchemy, the transformation of the self. The alchemists understood something powerful, that the goal wasn't escape from life's difficulties or limitations, but rather to transmute these difficulties into something valuable and meaningful. Transmutation, not transcendence, was the true aim. Rather than fleeing the world, the alchemists worked intimately within it, turning ordinary, often challenging realities into profound internal growth. Thinking deeply about this, Alex reflected on the nature of their struggles, those they once viewed as obstacles to happiness or fulfillment. They recognized now that each struggle, each moment of friction, was an opportunity for transmutation. Moments of stress at work, difficult conversations with friends or family, and even internal anxieties were no longer simply frustrations. Instead, they became alchemical moments, opportunities to refine their responses, turning emotional lead into spiritual gold. With this newfound perspective, Alex approached daily life differently. Each moment of difficulty or stress became a gentle invitation to practice patience, empathy, and calm, qualities that previously felt elusive. Rather than seeking to escape or numb discomfort through distractions, Alex faced it directly, seeing clearly for the first time how inner chaos could be transformed through awareness and intention. They discovered that transformation wasn't instantaneous or easy. Like any real alchemical process, it required patience, repeated efforts, and persistence. Days could be frustrating, filled with setbacks. Alex learned to accept this, viewing each perceived failure not as regression but as part of the refining process itself. Even in the mistakes and backslides, they saw progress. Each awareness, each small change in behaviour, each deliberate pause was another subtle but undeniable step toward internal stability. This change in perspective also influenced their relationships. Conversations that were once tense or rushed became calmer and more intentional. Alex found themselves genuinely listening more deeply, less eager to interject or defend, more open to learning and understanding. Relationships began to shift subtly yet significantly. Friends and colleagues noticed a quiet steadiness that hadn't been there before. Alex felt it too, a previously unfamiliar sense of groundedness, the slow, stable presence that comes from intentional, conscious living. Late one evening, while rereading their notes on transmutation, Alex felt the depth of this shift vividly. They realized they no longer sought immediate escape from discomfort or uncertainty. Instead, they embraced it, sitting quietly with difficult emotions, feeling them fully, allowing them to be catalysts rather than obstacles. Each internal struggle, each uncomfortable truth, was an alchemical ingredient, essential to the process. They understood, with a profound clarity, that the essence of alchemy, transmutation, was fundamentally about acceptance. It was about fully acknowledging reality as it was, not as they wished it would be. True transformation couldn't happen through denial or avoidance, only through honest confrontation and thoughtful action. The goal wasn't to transcend life, but but to embrace and refine it deeply and genuinely. In this understanding, the symbolism of the Bird of Hermes reached its fullest expression. The bird eating its wings wasn't losing something precious, it was gaining clarity, strength, and purpose. It wasn't diminishing itself, but concentrating its energy, refining it into something stable, strong, and grounded. Alex knew now that this symbolic act reflected their own journey towards self-mastery and internal peace. They saw clearly that restraint wasn't a limitation but liberation, a freeing from the endless, exhausting cycle of restless flight. As the night deepened, Alex closed their notebook softly. A profound peace settled over them, a quiet assurance that this journey, though far from complete, was exactly as it should be. They were not transcending life or escaping reality. They were genuinely transforming it. The difficulties and uncertainties would continue, but Alex was no longer afraid or overwhelmed. Each challenge was now a precious alchemical ingredient, each day another quiet chance for meaningful growth. As they prepared for sleep, Alex felt gratitude for the mysterious phrase they'd stumbled upon, for the unknown hand that had scribbled it in the margins of a forgotten book. The journey had taken them inward, reshaping their understanding of themselves and the world around them. It had shown them clearly that the path forward wasn't about fleeing from difficulties, but transforming them, turning volatility into stability, chaos into clarity, confusion into wisdom. They closed their eyes, calm and steady, fully understanding at last what the alchemists had always known. The real magic of life was found not in transcending its challenges, but in patiently, courageously, and lovingly transforming them. As days quietly merged into weeks, Alex discovered that the heart of their transformation wasn't simply philosophical or abstract. It was deeply psychological, occurring in the intricate folds of their own mind. The symbolic image of the Bird of Hermes had become a guide, an inner compass pointing steadily toward a calmer, clearer state of being. Alex now understood fully. Taming Mercury, the volatile spirit, was ultimately about taming the mind itself, bringing order and intentionality to a previously restless inner landscape. They had always known their mind was busy, filled with ceaseless chatter, constant analysis, endless questioning, and impulsive desires. But until they encountered the metaphor of Mercury, they hadn't recognized just how exhausting this mental flight truly was. The mind, left untamed, behaved exactly like that elusive alchemical substance, constantly moving, scattering energy, never resting, rarely satisfied. It was a powerful realization, one that provided profound insight into why Alex often felt tired and overwhelmed, despite outwardly appearing productive. This newfound awareness didn't immediately stop the restlessness, of course. Awareness alone was not enough. But it provided Alex with the tools to begin a conscious practice of mental taming, gentle discipline rooted in compassion and understanding rather than force. They knew this wasn't about suppressing thoughts or punishing impulses, but rather about guiding them consciously, intentionally. To tame the mind was not to silence it entirely, but to shape its energy toward clarity rather than chaos. Alex started small. They began setting aside just a few minutes each day to observe their thoughts without immediately reacting to them. Sitting quietly at their kitchen table each morning, eyes closed, they simply noticed how swiftly and impulsively their mind moved, jumping from worry to planning, from memory to fantasy, rarely settling anywhere for more than a moment. It felt chaotic at first, almost overwhelming, but Alex persisted, driven by a genuine desire for peace and steadiness. Gradually, these brief periods of observation grew longer. Alex learned to hold space for thoughts without being swept away by them. They discovered they didn't have to follow each impulse or react to every fleeting emotion. They began experiencing something profound, tiny moments of quiet amidst the storm. At first, these were fleeting, a brief pause here, a gentle quieting there. But over time they expanded, growing more frequent, deeper, more reliable. The Bird of Hermes metaphor took on even deeper significance as Alex practiced this mental taming. Eating the wings symbolized sacrificing immediate impulses, like snapping back in irritation, endlessly scrolling online or compulsively checking messages in favor of something far richer, presence. Each time they resisted an impulse, even slightly, they felt an internal strengthening, a reclaiming of their energy from scattered and meaningless flight. It was subtle, gentle, and immensely powerful. One afternoon, during a particularly stressful day at work, Alex found themselves able to pause before responding to criticism from a colleague. Instead of instantly reacting defensively, they took a deep breath, felt the surge of emotion clearly, observed it quietly, and chose a calmer, clearer response. This small act felt monumental, a clear sign that their inner discipline was slowly but genuinely taking root. These shifts began accumulating. Alex noticed other subtle changes. The way their heartbeat no longer spiked as quickly when faced with unexpected demands, how they could enjoy a silent moment without immediately filling it, how their relationships felt smoother, less reactive, more thoughtful. It wasn't perfect, and there were certainly difficult days, but the trajectory felt undeniably positive. Alex also recognized patterns in their mind's volatility. Certain triggers reliably set off flights of mental restlessness, stress at work, disagreements with friends, social anxiety. Recognizing these patterns allowed Alex to approach them deliberately, consciously choosing responses rather than defaulting to automatic reactions. They learned to anticipate their own volatility, preparing in advance how they might gently guide their reactions back to steadiness and calm. This was more than just a technique. It became an essential part of who Alex was becoming. They no longer viewed their mind as an enemy to be controlled, but as a partner to be understood and guided compassionately. The energy previously lost to distraction and restlessness began flowing toward creativity, insight, and genuine emotional connection. The act of eating the wings became a deeply nourishing, profoundly meaningful choice rather than a punitive sacrifice. One evening, reflecting deeply on this journey, Alex realized the process of taming their mind had not diminished their spirit at all. Quite the opposite. It had strengthened and clarified it, allowing their true self to emerge more fully, less obscured by frantic distractions. Their internal landscape, once turbulent and exhausting, now felt like a sanctuary of calm and clarity, reliably accessible even amidst external chaos. Alex felt a surge of profound gratitude toward that simple, mysterious sentence found scribbled in the margin of an old book. Without it, they might never have embarked on this quiet journey of inner transformation. The Bird of Hermes, symbolic Mercury now tamed and steady, was no longer an external image but a core element of their internal reality. This psychological alchemy was not magic. It was patient, consistent effort guided by deep awareness, compassion, and intention. As they prepared for bed, Alex felt a powerful sense of fulfillment. This wasn't the dramatic fulfillment of an achievement announced to the world, but something quieter, subtler, and infinitely more meaningful. It was the quiet victory of finally feeling at home within their own mind, comfortable within their own self, able to embrace stillness without fear of what they might discover there. They fell asleep peacefully, secure in the knowledge that the journey toward mental steadiness wasn't complete, perhaps never truly would be, but knowing now that this was perfectly all right. The real goal wasn't an endpoint, but a process, a continuous gentle practice of taming and guiding the volatile spirit within. And for the first time, Alex felt genuinely grateful to be exactly where they were, calmly present, steadily grounded, and quietly ready for whatever came next. Alex's journey now began to revolve around three essential movements: pause, containment, and return. These were not abstract concepts, but genuine practices, integrated into daily life, like rhythms embedded in their breathing, subtly guiding their thoughts, feelings, and actions. Each was integral to the gentle taming of Mercury within, each quietly powerful in its own way. The first step, pause, was deceptively simple, yet it felt revolutionary each time Alex consciously engaged it. It was the art of creating intentional space within moments of impulse or reaction. It meant choosing, even briefly, to stop the automatic flow of thought or action, just long enough to see clearly what was happening. At first, these pauses felt difficult, almost unnatural. Alex's mind wanted constant movement, immediate responses, continuous stimulation. But gradually, the pauses became second nature, moments to breathe deeply, to ground themselves, to reconnect with the calm presence they'd begun to cultivate. In daily life, these pauses appeared quietly. During stressful conversations at work, Alex found themselves taking a single conscious breath, before replying, feeling emotions settle gently rather than escalate. At home, they chose silence more often, no longer automatically reaching for distraction. Even in ordinary moments, waiting in line, sitting quietly before bed, they noticed themselves naturally pausing, appreciating the calm it brought. Each pause was small, but cumulatively powerful, subtly transforming their interactions and experiences. The next stage, containment, emerged naturally from the first. To contain was not to suppress or deny emotions, but rather to hold them thoughtfully, respectfully, without immediately reacting. It meant recognizing the restless energy within, Mercury's volatility, and choosing to manage it consciously. Alex saw clearly that containment wasn't about becoming emotionally distant or disconnected. It was the opposite, becoming deeply aware, feeling emotions fully but without allowing them to dictate impulsive behaviors or overwhelm their sense of self. Containment appeared most vividly during emotional turbulence, moments of stress, frustration, anxiety, or sadness. Alex learned to consciously observe these feelings, gently acknowledging their presence without immediately needing to resolve them or act upon them. They noticed that when emotions were held carefully and consciously, their intensity naturally softened. Feelings that once felt overwhelming became manageable, meaningful insights rather than uncontrollable storms. Containment brought clarity, strength, and emotional resilience, qualities Alex realized they'd always deeply desired. The third movement was perhaps the most profound, return. This was the quiet, continuous act of gently bringing their focus back to the present moment whenever they noticed themselves slipping into distraction, worry, or mental noise. It was a simple act, yet profoundly meaningful, the consistent choice to reconnect with their calm center, the inner space they had cultivated through practice and intention. Each return reinforced their internal stability, gradually creating a reliable anchor amid life's constant changes and unpredictability. Alex practiced return in many subtle ways. Whenever their thoughts drifted toward anxiety about the future or regret over the past, they consciously guided themselves back to the present moment, grounding their awareness in immediate sensory experiences, a deep breath, the gentle feeling of air against their skin, the quiet sounds of their surroundings. The return was always gentle, always compassionate, never forceful. Over time, these repeated returns reinforced their connection with a deeper inner steadiness, building resilience and clarity. Together, these movements, pause, containment, return, formed the rhythm of Alex's daily life. Each complemented the others, creating a powerful yet quiet practice of inner transformation. Alex realized, with increasing clarity, that the taming of Mercury wasn't a single dramatic event, but a continuous, gentle discipline. It was something practiced each day, in each moment, through small yet meaningful choices. This disciplined rhythm began to yield noticeable, tangible effects. Alex felt calmer, steadier, more present. Their relationships deepened and strengthened, enriched by genuine listening and thoughtful responses rather than habitual reactions. Their work, too, felt more meaningful, no longer a frantic series of tasks, but intentional acts, undertaken with clear purpose and focused attention. Life was still busy, still challenging at times, but Alex felt more capable, more resilient, and genuinely connected with each moment as it arrived. One evening, sitting quietly by their window as evening deepened, Alex reflected deeply on their journey. The Bird of Hermes, once merely an intriguing symbolic phrase found scribbled in an old book, had become a profound personal guide. Mercury, once restless and chaotic, now felt integrated and purposeful within them, a powerful force consciously directed rather than chaotically scattered. Alex felt an immense gratitude, not just for the discoveries they'd made, but for the simple yet transformative practices they'd embraced. Pause, containment, return. These three quiet practices had reshaped their life gently yet unmistakably. They had taught Alex the power of subtlety, of consistent and patient effort rather than sudden dramatic change. They had shown clearly that true transformation was not about dramatic breakthroughs or radical escapes, but about patiently, persistently engaging with life's ordinary moments. Each moment, no matter how mundane, was now filled with potential, a quiet opportunity to practice patience, clarity, presence, and strength. As the city outside gradually quieted, Alex felt peaceful and content. They knew the journey wasn't over. It perhaps never would be, but that realization now felt reassuring rather than daunting. The work of pause, containment and return wasn't something that ended. It was something that deepened, strengthened and enriched over a lifetime. It was a gentle, steady rhythm they had embraced completely, knowing it would continue guiding them toward deeper clarity and fulfillment. Alex stood quietly, taking a deep breath, feeling fully present and deeply alive in the quiet stillness of their home. They had truly internalized the Bird of Hermes, mercury tamed, energy contained, presence reclaimed. The metaphor had become a living, breathing practice fully integrated into their daily experience. As Alex turned off the lamp, preparing to rest, they felt not just calm but deeply fulfilled. They knew, without a doubt, that the quiet wisdom found scribbled in the margins of an old book had profoundly transformed them. Not by adding something external, but by uncovering and strengthening the quiet strength that had always existed within them. The night settled peacefully around them, bringing with it a deep and restful sleep, full of quiet certainty and profound gratitude. As Alex's daily practices deepened, they began to realize that transformation wasn't about becoming someone else. It was about fully becoming themselves. Integration wasn't a stage. It was a continual merging of all they had learned with every aspect of their life and identity. The Bird of Hermes no longer existed as a symbolic image they needed to consciously recall. Instead, it had become quietly embedded within their everyday reality, shaping their thoughts, actions and relationships in subtle yet profound ways. Integration wasn't dramatic or sudden. It unfolded quietly, day by day, within ordinary routines and interactions. Alex found that the practices of pause, containment, and return now emerged naturally, spontaneously, without conscious effort. They were no longer deliberate acts but habits woven seamlessly into their life. Alex recognized that true transformation was subtle, steady, and enduring. Not something performed, but something genuinely lived. With integration came clarity about their identity, not a fixed idea of who they were supposed to be, but a fluid yet stable understanding rooted in self-awareness and authenticity. Alex felt no longer fragmented or uncertain, no longer driven by external validation or internal turmoil. Their sense of self was now grounded deeply within, free from the restless search for external approval. They felt whole, comfortable, and genuinely themselves. Relationships reflected this internal shift profoundly. Friends and family began to remark quietly on the changes they observed. Not dramatic transformations, but subtle shifts in presence, empathy, and stability. Conversations felt more meaningful, connections deeper and richer, relationships steadier and more fulfilling. Alex recognized these interactions as mirrors reflecting their internal integration clearly. They felt profoundly grateful for this quiet validation, recognizing it as a genuine confirmation of their internal journey. Integration also reshaped their work life. Tasks that once felt overwhelming or burdensome became manageable, even enjoyable, now approached with calm intentionality and focused attention. Colleagues noticed Alex's increased steadiness, quiet confidence, and ability to remain calm under pressure. Though subtle, these shifts had tangible effects, quietly improving their productivity, creativity, and overall satisfaction. Alex's professional life no longer felt disconnected or draining. It felt integrated, a meaningful extension of who they truly were. Yet the most profound aspect of integration was internal, felt deeply in quiet moments alone. Alex had become deeply comfortable with solitude, no longer restless or seeking distraction when alone. Instead, these quiet periods became cherished opportunities for deeper reflection, creativity, and genuine rest. Silence no longer felt empty or frightening. It was rich, deeply nourishing, a quiet sanctuary Alex knew they could access any time. This internal shift felt quietly revolutionary, transforming solitude from something avoided into something deeply embraced. Alex also experienced a significant change in their emotional resilience. Difficult emotions, once overwhelming and unsettling, were now manageable. Integration had taught Alex not to resist or fear these emotions, but to view them as valuable insights, guides toward deeper self-understanding and growth. Even in moments of intense emotion, Alex could now remain centered, calm and present, recognizing emotions as temporary states rather than defining aspects of their identity. Identity, they now fully understood, was not static or singular. It was dynamic, evolving continually through experiences, reflections and choices. Their identity was no longer fragmented or reactive, but steady and consciously shaped through intentional living. Alex felt deeply at peace with this evolving sense of self, knowing it would continue to grow and deepen over time, anchored securely by the principles they had learned through the metaphor of the Bird of Hermes. One quiet afternoon, Alex revisited the old book that had sparked this entire journey. Sitting at their familiar kitchen table, they turned gently through its worn pages, feeling profound gratitude toward the unknown person who had written that mysterious phrase in the margins. The Bird of Hermes was no longer a separate entity. It had become fully integrated into Alex's sense of self, a living philosophy embodied each day through quiet practice and gentle discipline. Closing the book gently, Alex realized this integration was never truly complete, and that realization brought quiet joy rather than frustration. Integration was not about reaching an endpoint. It was about continuously growing, deepening and refining their identity through everyday choices and experiences. It was a lifelong commitment to presence, clarity, and authenticity. This understanding transformed Alex's perspective on personal growth. They no longer sought dramatic breakthroughs or radical transformations. Instead, they valued subtle, steady changes cultivated through patient practice and compassionate awareness. They felt deeply content with who they had become, not because they had attained perfection, but because they genuinely embraced the continuous gentle process of becoming. As Alex prepared to rest that night, they reflected deeply on their journey so far. They saw clearly how integration had quietly reshaped every aspect of their life, deeply grounding their identity and stabilizing their emotional, mental and relational landscapes. The Bird of Hermes, mercury tamed and integrated, had become fully internalized, a quiet but powerful force continually guiding their path forward. Lying in bed, Alex felt a profound sense of completeness, not because their journey was over, but precisely because it wasn't. They were at peace with the continuous, gentle unfolding of their life and identity, secure in the knowledge that they had developed the tools and wisdom necessary for lifelong growth. They drifted into sleep peacefully, knowing integration was no longer a conscious effort. It was simply who they had become. With integration firmly established within them, Alex began noticing subtle but profound changes in how they related to old habits and distractions. The metaphorical wings they had once relied on for constant, restless flight. These wings weren't disappearing violently or dramatically. Rather, they were gently falling away, naturally and without resistance, no longer needed for the calm, steady self Alex had become. These wings had once symbolized Alex's constant need for distraction, validation, and escape, impulses that had once felt deeply ingrained, even inseparable from their identity. Checking their phone obsessively, reacting impulsively, needing constant activity or external approval. These were the ways Alex had unconsciously maintained flight, the restless and exhausting state they now clearly recognized as Mercury's volatility. Yet now, each of these habits began to feel increasingly unnecessary, even burdensome. The quiet strength Alex had cultivated through their practices of pause, containment and return had reshaped their internal world so profoundly that old impulses simply no longer resonated. It wasn't a forced rejection, but rather a natural release. The wings weren't being ripped away, they were gently falling off, shedding quietly, gracefully, like autumn leaves drifting softly to the ground. Alex first noticed this quiet shedding with their relationship to technology. Previously their phone had been a constant companion, checked reflexively during any moment of downtime or discomfort. But now Alex found themselves increasingly able to set it aside, not through conscious struggle but through genuine disinterest. The constant scrolling and checking had simply lost its appeal. The restless impulse had quieted, replaced by a deeper appreciation for presence and quiet moments. The same gentle shedding occurred with social interactions. Alex had previously felt compelled to say yes to every invitation, to fill their calendar with endless commitments, driven by a fear of missing out or disappointing others. Now they felt comfortable gently declining invitations that didn't genuinely resonate. They found deep satisfaction in moments of solitude or quieter social connections, ones based on genuine connection rather than obligation or restlessness. Each time Alex consciously chose authenticity over habit, another metaphorical wing fell away quietly, gently, without struggle or regret. Even at work, previously stressful situations were becoming manageable, even peaceful. Alex found themselves responding calmly, thoughtfully and intentionally to demands that once triggered anxiety or frantic effort. They recognized clearly that much of their previous stress had been self-generated, driven by the unconscious need to prove themselves or remain constantly active. Without these wings, work felt meaningful but no longer draining, balanced rather than overwhelming. Alex's relationships also shifted profoundly. Without the wings of constant emotional volatility, their interactions with friends and family became deeper, richer, and calmer. Conversations were now genuinely reciprocal, filled with attentive listening and thoughtful responses. Friends commented warmly on Alex's steadiness, their newfound quiet confidence, and gentle strength. Alex felt deeply grateful for these transformations, recognizing clearly that shedding their wings had profoundly improved their emotional connections and overall quality of life. This shedding process was not without moments of discomfort or challenge, of course. Occasionally, old impulses resurfaced, old habits attempted to reclaim dominance. Yet Alex met these moments not with frustration or self-criticism, but with compassionate awareness, gently guiding themselves back to their newfound steadiness. Each time they successfully navigated these moments, they felt a quiet internal strengthening, a gentle reaffirmation of their choice to remain grounded, calm, and present. Over time, Alex began to view these wings not with regret but with gratitude. They recognized these old habits as essential parts of their past journey, necessary stages of growth that had ultimately led them toward their current steadiness and clarity. Each fallen wing was honored as an important aspect of who they'd once been, lovingly acknowledged, then gently released. Alex understood clearly now. Genuine transformation involved accepting and appreciating the past, not simply rejecting it. The more deeply Alex embraced this gentle shedding, the clearer their inner peace became. They recognized clearly that their new way of being wasn't about rejecting their old self, but rather integrating it, honoring it as part of their ongoing story. Their past habits, impulses, and distractions had served their purpose. They had guided Alex toward the very transformation they now embodied. Now, having fulfilled their role, these wings could fall away naturally, leaving behind only clarity, strength, and authenticity. One quiet afternoon, Alex reflected deeply on this ongoing process. Sitting peacefully by their window, watching leaves gently drift down in the autumn breeze, they saw clearly how perfectly nature mirrored their internal journey. The falling leaves, beautiful and graceful even in their release, symbolized exactly what Alex had experienced internally. Each leaf was a metaphorical wing, no longer needed, released gracefully, making room for new growth. Alex felt profound gratitude in that moment, not just for their internal transformation, but for the quiet wisdom they discovered through embracing the symbolism of the Bird of Hermes. Each fallen wing, each quiet shedding, had brought deeper clarity, peace, and self-awareness. Their internal landscape now felt deeply enriched, filled with authentic connection, genuine fulfillment, and quiet confidence. As evening gently descended, Alex felt deeply at peace with this ongoing process of shedding. They understood clearly that this gentle letting go was an ongoing practice, not something completed once and forever. There would always be new layers of awareness, new wings ready to be gently released. Yet rather than feeling overwhelmed by this realization, Alex felt deeply comforted by it. This gentle shedding was not a burden. It was a lifelong practice of continuous gentle growth. With deep gratitude and peaceful acceptance, Alex turned away from the window, preparing quietly for sleep. They felt secure in the knowledge that the quiet shedding of wings was exactly as it should be. Gentle, graceful, and deeply meaningful. The Bird of Hermes had guided them precisely toward this internal clarity, this gentle strength and quiet authenticity. They fell asleep peacefully, trusting fully in the gentle, ongoing journey of letting go. In the quiet depths of their ongoing journey, Alex began to fully understand the true nature of the alchemist's gold. The symbolic, subtle treasure that emerges from genuine transformation. Unlike literal gold, this alchemical gold did not glitter or demand attention. It didn't reflect external brilliance or dazzle with instant visibility. Instead, this gold was quiet, steady, enduring, hidden deeply within the heart of daily life, present in ordinary moments, felt deeply but never ostentatiously displayed. This quiet gold became increasingly clear to Alex through simple but profound experiences. They felt its presence vividly during peaceful mornings, when they awoke calmly, no longer immediately burdened by worries or anxieties. It appeared in the way they could now listen deeply during conversations without the restless impulse to interrupt or dominate. It surfaced in small yet meaningful actions, pausing to appreciate the sunlight filtering gently through their window, taking a moment to savour the warmth of a cup of tea, feeling genuine gratitude in quiet moments of solitude. Alex began recognizing clearly that true value, real fulfillment and meaningful happiness, was found not in grand achievements or external recognition, but in subtle, quiet moments of presence, clarity, and connection. This gold, quietly radiant beneath the surface, profoundly enriched their daily experiences without requiring validation or applause. It was inherently valuable precisely because it required no external confirmation. It was self-sustaining, stable, and authentic. This internal gold reshaped their understanding of success entirely. Previously, success had felt urgent, external, something defined by measurable accomplishments or visible milestones. Now, success felt quiet, internal, deeply personal, found in consistent presence, emotional steadiness, and genuine authenticity. Alex discovered true success wasn't about acquiring more or constantly chasing external goals, but about genuinely appreciating what they already had, deeply valuing each quiet moment of calm, clarity, and meaningful connection. Relationships particularly reflected this quiet gold profoundly. Alex's friendships and family connections became richer, deeper, more fulfilling, not through dramatic events or grand gestures, but through the quiet, consistent presence and emotional steadiness Alex now embodied. Friends remarked gently about feeling deeply heard, genuinely seen, and truly valued. Alex realized clearly, this internal gold enriched their interactions in profound ways, quietly deepening emotional bonds without needing constant affirmation or external validation. This quiet gold also reshaped their experience of solitude profoundly. Once uncomfortable or filled with restless anxiety, solitude was now deeply nourishing, genuinely fulfilling, a cherished space for reflection, creativity, and authentic self-awareness. Each quiet moment alone felt deeply valuable, filled with clarity and insight. This internal treasure was found precisely because Alex no longer sought external distraction or approval. They had discovered a genuine quiet value within themselves, self-contained and deeply sustaining. In moments of difficulty or stress, the true value of this internal gold became especially clear. Alex recognized that their emotional resilience had profoundly deepened. Situations that once overwhelmed or destabilized them now felt manageable, even meaningful, viewed as opportunities for deeper self-awareness and growth. Alex recognized clearly, this internal gold provided genuine emotional stability, an unshakable sense of self-worth that remained steady even amidst external turmoil. They began sharing this quiet gold gently and naturally in their interactions with others, not through direct advice or explicit teaching, but simply through their own presence, steady calm, and genuine empathy. Friends and colleagues subtly reflected this influence, remarking quietly on feeling calmer, steadier, more thoughtful when around Alex. This sharing required no conscious effort. It was simply the natural expression of their internal transformation, gently enriching the lives of those around them. Alex reflected deeply on the metaphor of alchemical gold, understanding clearly now why the alchemists had symbolized genuine transformation through a treasure that didn't glitter. They had understood profoundly that true value wasn't external, fleeting, or superficial. It was internal, steady, and enduring. The Bird of Hermes had guided Alex precisely toward this quiet gold, patiently teaching the value of restraint, clarity, authenticity, and presence. One evening, sitting quietly in their apartment, Alex felt deeply grateful for this internal treasure. They reflected clearly on their journey, recognizing fully how their values, goals, and sense of self-worth had profoundly transformed. This internal gold required no outward display. It was inherently valuable, quietly enriching every aspect of their life. They understood fully now. True transformation didn't produce something visible or externally celebrated, but something quietly internal, subtly profound, genuinely sustaining. Alex no longer sought external validation or recognition for their growth. The transformation itself had become deeply fulfilling, genuinely rewarding. This internal gold didn't require proof or confirmation. Its quiet radiance was deeply felt, clearly experienced within. Each quiet moment of calm, each meaningful interaction, each internal insight was now deeply cherished precisely because of their subtlety, their quiet yet profound impact. Preparing quietly for sleep, Alex felt deeply at peace, profoundly fulfilled by the quiet gold they had discovered within. They understood clearly that this treasure wasn't something external to attain or display. It was a quiet, internal state of being, deeply enriching their daily experiences without demanding attention or applause. This internal gold had become fully integrated into their life and identity, quietly guiding their path forward. As they drifted gently into sleep, Alex felt deep gratitude toward the mysterious phrase found scribbled in an old book, the symbolic Bird of Hermes that had guided them toward this quiet, profound internal treasure. They knew clearly genuine transformation wasn't about flashy achievements or visible accolades. It was about quietly cultivating internal clarity, steady authenticity, and profound presence. Alex slept peacefully, secure in the quiet yet profound value of the internal gold they had discovered, a treasure that didn't glitter but quietly sustained, deeply enriched, and genuinely fulfilled every aspect of their being. Through their profound transformation, Alex gradually realized that the deepest treasure they'd uncovered, the most enduring aspect of their journey, was a quiet stillness that had become a permanent part of them. It wasn't merely temporary calm or fleeting relief from restlessness. Instead, it was a stillness that stayed, steady, reliable, and unwavering, no matter how chaotic life became. This stillness was the heart of their alchemical gold, a quiet strength they could trust implicitly. At first, Alex noticed this persistent stillness subtly, appearing quietly during ordinary moments of daily life. They felt it in the gentle ease with which they now approached their mornings, no longer anxious or hurried. They recognized it clearly during conversations with friends, able to listen patiently and empathetically without the urge to interject or rush. Even during busy workdays, Alex sensed this stillness as an underlying steadiness, an internal calm grounding their actions and decisions. Over time, this stillness deepened and expanded, becoming an essential part of their identity. Alex discovered they no longer needed external validation or constant activity to feel fulfilled. They now experienced genuine satisfaction simply in being present, fully engaged with each moment exactly as it was. This was a profound shift from their previous restlessness, a true embodiment of the Bird of Hermes symbolism, Mercury finally and fully tamed, transformed from volatility into genuine, enduring stability. Alex began to recognize clearly that this stillness wasn't passive or empty. It was deeply alive, full of quiet potential. It provided clarity, insight, and emotional resilience, allowing them to face life's complexities with genuine confidence and grace. Difficult moments no longer overwhelmed them as they once had. Instead, challenges became meaningful opportunities to practice deeper awareness, presence, and patience. This stillness became their inner anchor, steadying them through life's inevitable ups and downs. Their relationships reflected this internal stillness profoundly. Friends, family, and colleagues increasingly relied on Alex's calm presence during stressful times, drawn naturally to their steady demeanor and gentle empathy. Conversations became richer, deeper, and more meaningful, enhanced by Alex's quiet ability to remain fully present. This stillness allowed Alex to truly listen, fully engage, and respond thoughtfully, creating deeper connections and genuine emotional intimacy. At work, this internal stillness reshaped Alex's entire experience. Previously frantic or stressful situations became opportunities for steady action and clear thinking. Alex no longer felt compelled to multitask or rush. Instead, they approached each task thoughtfully, patiently, and effectively. Colleagues noticed their increased steadiness and reliability, remarking appreciatively on their consistent calm and emotional maturity. Alex felt genuine fulfillment and quiet satisfaction in their work, recognizing clearly how their internal stillness enhanced their productivity and creativity. Solitude also transformed profoundly through this enduring stillness. Once uncomfortable or even frightening, solitude now felt deeply nourishing, a cherished time for reflection, creativity, and genuine rest. Each quiet moment alone became deeply valuable, filled with meaningful insights and genuine self-awareness. This stillness transformed solitude from something to be avoided into something deeply treasured, genuinely enriching their inner life. Alex realized this internal stillness wasn't something they'd created through force or sheer willpower. It had emerged naturally, gradually, through consistent, gentle practice. Their daily habits of pause, containment, and return had slowly yet undeniably reshaped their internal landscape, cultivating this steady calm. They understood now that true transformation wasn't sudden or dramatic, but subtle, steady, and enduring, shaped through patient, compassionate awareness and quiet discipline. The more deeply Alex integrated this stillness, the clearer its value became. They recognized clearly that it wasn't an achievement to be showcased, nor a prize to be flaunted. Rather, it was a quiet internal state, profoundly valuable precisely because of its subtlety, depth, and endurance. This stillness was inherently sustaining, genuinely fulfilling, and deeply nourishing, a quiet treasure more valuable than any external validation or superficial reward. In reflecting deeply on their journey, Alex recognized clearly the profound symbolism of the Bird of Hermes. The act of eating the wings, the symbolic restraint, the gentle taming of volatility, had guided them directly toward this enduring stillness. Alex understood fully that true freedom wasn't endless, restless flight, but the quiet strength and genuine presence found in stillness. They had discovered a profound, authentic freedom precisely because they'd learned to remain steady, fully present and consciously grounded in their inner peace. One quiet evening, sitting by their window, Alex reflected deeply on this stillness, feeling profound gratitude. They realized clearly, this enduring calm was the true alchemical treasure, the genuine gold, at the heart of their transformation. It wasn't flashy or externally impressive, but deeply sustaining, quietly powerful, and genuinely life-changing. It allowed them to live authentically, fully, and meaningfully, enriching every aspect of their life profoundly yet subtly. Alex now fully understood the Bird of Hermes' true meaning, the profound freedom and genuine fulfillment found through restraint, stillness, and conscious presence. Their internal mercury, their previously restless spirit, had been genuinely transformed, fully integrated into their authentic identity. This stillness, steady and unwavering, was the deepest expression of their transformation, the true completion of their internal alchemy. As they quietly prepared for sleep, Alex felt profoundly peaceful, deeply secure in the steady stillness they now carried within. They knew clearly, this enduring calm was their true treasure, quietly enriching their life each day, guiding their choices, shaping their relationships, and grounding their identity. Alex drifted gently into sleep, deeply grateful and quietly fulfilled, secure in the stillness that would remain with them always, a quiet, enduring presence, profoundly meaningful, genuinely valuable, and forever theirs. In the quiet culmination of their transformative journey, Alex finally understood fully that the Bird of Hermes wasn't merely a metaphor they'd encountered. It had become an integral part of their very being. The symbolic bird had ceased to exist as something separate or external. It was now fully internalized, embedded deeply within their identity, quietly guiding their thoughts, feelings, and actions. The Bird of Hermes had transformed into the steady rhythm of their breath, the calm clarity in their mind, the gentle strength at the core of their identity. This quiet internalization happened subtly, almost unnoticed, until Alex gradually realized that the practices, insights, and symbolism they'd embraced were no longer separate from them. They had become seamless parts of their daily life, shaping every interaction, every choice, every quiet moment of solitude. The bird within had quietly guided them toward authenticity, resilience, and profound inner peace, integrating these qualities fully into their identity. Alex recognized clearly that the bird within represented genuine freedom, not freedom from responsibility or challenges, but freedom from internal volatility and restlessness. It symbolized the profound liberation found in deliberate choice, thoughtful restraint, and conscious presence. The Bird of Hermes within allowed Alex to live genuinely and authentically, unbound by constant distraction or external validation. They felt deeply free precisely because they had embraced discipline, calm, and intentionality. This internal bird reshaped Alex's understanding of their own potential profoundly. They no longer chased external achievements or superficial accomplishments. Instead, they pursued quiet, steady growth rooted deeply in authentic self-awareness and conscious choice. They recognized clearly that their greatest potential lay not in endless external activity, but in cultivating profound internal stillness, genuine emotional clarity, and meaningful presence. Relationships particularly reflected this internal bird's quiet influence. Friends and family now deeply trusted Alex's steady presence, relying on their calm empathy during challenging moments. Conversations became richer, connections deeper, intimacy more authentic, all quietly guided by Alex's internal clarity and emotional steadiness. Alex saw clearly how the bird within profoundly enriched their interpersonal relationships, creating genuine bonds built on mutual understanding and authentic presence. Their work life also transformed quietly but profoundly. Tasks no longer felt burdensome or overwhelming, even during busy or stressful periods. Alex approached their responsibilities thoughtfully, intentionally, and calmly, knowing clearly that genuine productivity stemmed from steady presence and emotional balance. Colleagues quietly appreciated Alex's reliability, steadiness, and genuine emotional maturity, reflecting the quiet yet profound impact of the internal bird's influence. Alex's experience of solitude had also shifted profoundly due to the bird within. They no longer sought distractions or external stimuli to avoid quiet moments alone. Instead, solitude had become deeply cherished, genuinely fulfilling, a quiet sanctuary for reflection, insight, and authentic self-awareness. Each moment alone now felt deeply nourishing, enriched by the internal clarity and profound presence cultivated through their transformative journey. This internal bird also profoundly reshaped Alex's emotional resilience. Challenges, setbacks, or difficult emotions no longer overwhelmed them. Instead, these experiences became opportunities to practice deeper self-awareness, genuine compassion, and steady presence. Alex felt deeply secure, knowing clearly that their internal calm was reliable, unwavering even amidst life's inevitable turmoil. The bird within provided profound emotional stability, a quiet strength Alex knew they could trust implicitly. Reflecting deeply one quiet evening, Alex felt profound gratitude for the mysterious phrase that had begun their journey, the enigmatic scribble in the margins of an old book discovered by chance. This simple yet powerful sentence had guided Alex gently yet profoundly toward genuine internal transformation. The Bird of Hermes had become fully integrated within them, profoundly enriching every aspect of their life and identity. Alex understood clearly that this transformation wasn't something external or temporary. It was permanent, deeply internal, and profoundly meaningful. The bird within symbolized the quiet strength, profound clarity, and genuine emotional resilience they had cultivated through patient practice, compassionate awareness, and gentle discipline. This internal transformation was their true alchemical treasure, more valuable than any external achievement or visible recognition. As they prepared for sleep, Alex felt deeply peaceful, quietly secure in the profound clarity they had discovered. They knew clearly that the bird within would continue quietly guiding their path forward, providing steady strength, calm clarity, and genuine presence throughout every experience. Alex felt profound gratitude for the deep internal peace they now embodied, a peace quietly radiant, profoundly steady, genuinely fulfilling. They drifted gently into sleep, secure in the knowledge that the Bird of Hermes within was no longer merely a symbolic metaphor. It had become their living, breathing reality. The profound internal transformation they had experienced was genuine, enduring, and deeply integrated into every aspect of their being. Alex understood clearly. True fulfillment and genuine happiness were found precisely here, in quiet internal clarity, steady emotional strength, and profound, authentic presence. As sleep gently embraced them, Alex felt quietly fulfilled, deeply grateful, and profoundly at peace, secure in the steady guidance of the bird within, the profound alchemical gold quietly enriching their life from the inside out.